Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started here in just a moment. We're going to let everybody load into the Zoom app and we'll jump right into our session. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services here at the Arizona Commerce Authority, and we're glad to have you with us for today's Small Business Boot Camp. As we like to do, we like to have everybody post in the chat where you're tuning in from. Like to see where all of our audience is from and the different areas of the state and sometimes beyond the state. So please, again, post in the chat where you're from. We got Mesa, Tucson, Chandler, more Mesa, another Chandler, another Mesa, Peoria, all right. All right, as you're logging in, post in the chat where you're tuning in from, and we're going to jump into the rest of the presentation. As we'd like to do at the beginning of our boot camps, we like to thank all of our community partners. We could not do these webinars without their time, their effort, and their expertise. They spend all of our partners spend a lot of time preparing for our boot camps, and they willingly share their expert knowledge with all of you. So we want to thank them. Also, those that are new, the Small Business Boot Camp is designed to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow. It's not just our Tuesday morning webinar that we do every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10, but we also host some workshops, both virtual through webinars and some hands-on workshops. And then we take all of that information and we like to put it into our content library. And so we record all of our webinars and some of our workshops, and we post those in the content library. The content library can be accessed on the bootcamp webpage. There's no cost to access the recordings, and you get the recording, and oftentimes the slide deck will be attached with it as well, so you can get the materials from each presenter. You can also share this with others. It's really easy to share the pages, and it's a great resource for all of our small businesses out there. The ACA also has a number of other programs to help support small businesses. We have our Career Readiness Credential, the Arizona Innovation Challenge, Arizona MEP, State Trade Expansion Program, Arizona at Work, and our Small Business Services. One program we like to highlight because it's very helpful for small business owners, those looking to start, or those looking to expand, is our Small Business Checklist. And this is an online interactive tool that helps entrepreneurs understand the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance needs at the local, state, and federal levels. It's an amazing resource. So with that, we want to just share some updates, some information, business related. If you're a tech startup, Venture Madness is accepting applications right now for their spring 2024 event. So please take a look at that. We're going to post links to these programs in the chat. And then on Friday, November 3rd, is the SCORE Manufacturing Summit. It's going to be hosted here at the Arizona Commerce Authority Conference Center. And it is by SCORE, Arizona MEP, and the ACA in general, Small Business Services. And then on Wednesday, November 8th, we have our Small Business Bootcamp Workshop with the Phoenix Business Journal and the ACA. Focusing on growth readiness, being prepared for growth in 2024. And we've got two different expert panels prepared for that workshop as well. Both those, the Manufacturing Summit and the Small Business Bootcamp Workshop, are in person only. There will not be a virtual option for those. So if you can attend, excellent. So with that, we want to look at our upcoming sessions. We've got a great lineup coming up through the end of the year, but here's the next three. We've got a follow-up on today's session. It can be viewed separately, but it's going to be another great resource by our friends at SizeUp on leveraging the business ecosystem. Then on November 7th, we have the SBA's 3 C's, capital, counseling, and contracting. And it's going to be an opportunity to learn more about the SBA, the Small Business Administration's programs to help support small businesses. And they have those 3 different areas. We're going to talk about capital, funding, counseling, and then government contracting. And then we're going to have another session in November on the importance of knowing what your business is worth. So we've got a great lineup. We hope you can join us for that. But with that, we're going to jump into today's session. And it's going to be presented by SizeUp Arizona. But before we dive into that, I'm going to turn the time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Just a couple housekeeping notes. If you have questions at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A box. Please click on that and post your questions in the Q&A so we can use the chat for some interaction. But I'm going to turn the time over to Kelly Patton with APS. APS is a partner of SizeUp, and Kelly's going to share a little bit about APS and SizeUp.
Yeah, awesome. Robert, thank you so much. Appreciate you, Faith, and the ACA for this opportunity to highlight the platform. So for those that don't know me, Kelly Patton, APS Economic Development Manager. Our team works to support all of the communities, the region, the state, the counties on business attraction, business retention, and growing within our Arizona borders. So we have are the largest power utility in the state. We represent 11 out of 15 counties, and we've got about 1.4 million customers. So we touch a lot of you that are hopefully on this call, but we also recognize the need to not just focus on our service territory, right? So we don't stop at any county or city line. We love any opportunity we have to partner with the state to represent all of Arizona, because what's good for APS is good for Arizona is going to be good for APS. So appreciate the opportunity to be here to bring SizeUp Arizona, a valuable free resource to your toolbox. Hopefully many of you are already familiar with it. But we brought SizeUp Arizona on in 2020 to really help with the small business and entrepreneur aspect of our community. So today we are delighted to have Mario Labalde and Armando Morales with SizeUp to talk through some of the specifics of the website. Again, hopefully many of you are familiar with it, but if not, I would love to turn the time over to the real stars of the show, Mario, Grand Poobah, Master of the Universe, and Director of Customer Strategy for SizeUp, and then, Customer Success, and then Armando, Customer Success Manager at SizeUp Arizona. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here this morning, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Really appreciate the wonderful intro. I hope I can live up to your intro, and I'm sure we'll hear in feedback and Q&A if I am. So wanted to introduce everyone and really thank you so much for investing the time to learn more about how SizeUp can help you in your business or the businesses that you're working with. Want to provide a little bit of context before we get started on the demo of the tool itself. And as a little bit of background, SizeUp uses the same type of data and analysis that big businesses are using. The big difference is that they have in-house business analysts, or perhaps they even go out to the consulting firms, the McKinseys of the world, and Deloitte's to get this type of information. Thanks to the investment that Kelly has made in small businesses in Arizona, you have access to the exact same type of data that they have. The other thing that's really important about the tool that you should know is that it provides access when you need it. We know that frequently you're so busy working in your business, you don't have time to work on your business, and that most small businesses and entrepreneurs tend to engage with this type of data and activity after hours and on weekends. And so this is a tool that's available for you when you need it. We made the tool very simple to use. And what I mean by that is it's super powerful analysis, but all you have to enter is the industry that you're working in, the location that you want to perform analysis on, and then the projections or the actual data from your business to get feedback about how you're performing and things that you may want to consider. And then lastly, we have a report creator. We recognize that you don't just work solely online. You may want to take some of this data, put it into a prospectus, put it into investor package, SBA loans, whatever it may be. If you want to just slice and dice it, if you really are into data and you want to take that information and put it in an Excel spreadsheet, you can take this information and export it so you can use it however you want. So I want to talk a little bit about why this data is so important. And so we're going to talk a little bit about new business creation. And we actually have some very interesting data about this. This comes from the Census Bureau, and this shows you what the trends are for new businesses, going back to 2004, all the way up to September of this year. We don't have October yet because we always get our 1 month in arrears. And so what you're going to see is this little dip here was the start of the pandemic. We thought that this was going to be a trend, that this, in fact, was going to be a huge negative situation for new business creations, entrepreneurs. In fact, we've seen the opposite. So you can see now this is the start of the pandemic, and now this is new business creation. So there's been a surge of entrepreneurship that is unprecedented in the history of the United States. Now, you're like, well, this is the United States. Tell me what's happening locally. This is what's happening in the West. So this is Arizona, New Mexico, California, Nevada. And here's what's happening in Arizona. So you can see even now, here are your previous highest highs. Your lowest lows are still greater than your highest highs previously. And the reason it matters is whether you're a new business or you're a business that's looking to pivot because things have changed in your industry or in your location. These are the 5-year survival rates. Now, we're a data-oriented company, so I'm not telling you this is our data. This actually comes from Entrepreneur Magazine and Investopedia. But what you can see is that after 5 years, your typical small business or your new business failure rate is about 50%. The thing that I want to mention is it's really important to unpack what's happening here, because what you'll notice is that while 50% of businesses have failed, the reasons they fail are very specific. So only about a third of those new businesses are failing because they're selling the wrong product, or they're offering the wrong service, or they're not operationally efficient. They're failing because they don't have the right data to make optimum business decisions. So what SizeUp provides you is the ability for those 2/3 of businesses that might fail, the ones that might die, to survive. And for businesses that are surviving, they can take that same information, optimize their business decision-making, and then thrive. So we're really hoping that you're going to take advantage of this tool. And we kind of want to walk you through a couple of different scenarios. So we'll talk about what we're going to do. The one thing that I want to explain is that the tool can work for you at any location in Arizona, and it can work at whatever level you need it to work at. So if you are a restaurant and you're benchmarking yourself against all other restaurants, you can do that. If you want to be more specific and look at Italian restaurants, you can look just at Italian restaurants. Or your grandmother's secret marinara recipe, if you're doing it for pizza, you can look at pizza. So you can go as broad or as wide as you need to. Now, we're going to talk about kind of like retail examples because we think that those are very kind of easier for people to understand. But this tool can be used in manufacturing. It can be used in professional services. There's no limit to how the tool can be used. So in terms of manufacturing, you can think about all manufacturing, right? Everything from cars to metal. You can look at plastics, or you can even look at plastic foams. All of the areas within an industry are covered from top to bottom, and the analysis can occur whatever your trade area is. So we have neighborhood level information, or if you're exporting your product to other states, you can look at it nationally. So we're going to look at 3 specific modules in SizeUp. Here's the difference. You guys are invested in a class that's very different from the ones we normally do. We normally have to cover everything in about 20 minutes. But thanks to the team who's putting this on for you, we're going to take a deeper dive into individual modules. So you're going to see all 3 today, but we're really going to take a deep dive into the first 2, the My Business Ranking and the competition tool. And then we'll cover advertising and how you can leverage those tools together in coming weeks. So again, benchmarking and business tool today, and then we're going to look at competition. We're going to look at the competition tool, both in an example that Armando will lead you through from business to business and business to consumer. And just so you'll see all of those, and then Q&A at the end. The next series, and this is really important for you, is we're going to cover the advertising module. So how you can optimize each dollar that you've spent, whether it's online advertising or physical media, billboards, whatever it may be. And more importantly, we're going to look not just at an individual module, but how you can work with one module to inform or optimize the analysis for the other. That 3rd bullet point is critical. We want to look at real world use cases from you. So during this time, if you want to suggest the industry that you're in, the city, county, wherever you're working in Arizona, please put that in the Q&A, and Armando and I will prepare specific walkthroughs through some of these examples for the next session that we're having. And then we'll follow it up by Q&A again too. So hopefully that is a good kind of run through about what we're going to be doing in the next 2 weeks. And now I'm going to take you into a live demo. And this should be very interactive. While I'm presenting, Armando's going to be acting as the air traffic controller, routing your questions and Q&A to me. And when Armando is doing the same, I will be responding to chat and Q&A. So the first thing that you need to know, and you saw it on the title slide, is that you can find this at sizeup.info/APS or SizeUp Arizona. And the tool is available 24/7. So as I mentioned, we keep things really simple. So you notice when you start off, there's a home button. It's English or Spanish. So any of you Spanish speakers out there, I'm going to do this in English, but we have a full Spanish version for you. All you have to do is enter the restaurant or the industry that you're interested in. In this case, we can look at restaurants. And I saw 2 people from Mesa. So I'm going to go ahead and use Mesa as the example because we want to keep this relevant for you. And you'll see that right here, you get to your chooser. So you can go to any of the modules you want at any time, but this is what allows you to choose the module that's of most interest to you. As I mentioned, we're going to look at the My Business or benchmarking tool. And you're going to see the tool right here. And you notice there's some blanks here, revenue. So this is one of the first things that a lot of people think about is money in a business. And for an existing business, you're either going to know how much revenue, not profit, but revenue you're making. What are your gross receipts? Or if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to want to ask yourself the question, how much do you think I'm going to make? Now, this is restaurants. And so let's put in some information here. And we're going to slow things down. We're actually going to look at how you can move through different levels. So let's say that the average restaurant, and I'm making this up, I don't know anything about the restaurant business in Mesa, but let's say that they're making, $2 million. So we're going to put this information in. We're going to get immediate feedback. And you'll see this with every benchmark or KPI, key performance indicator on SizeUp Arizona. So we're going to find out that at $2 million, we're actually a little bit below average. The average restaurant in Mesa is making $2.7 million per year in revenue, 2.79 in Maricopa County, 2.769 in the metro area, 2.6 in the state, and 2.1 in the United States. So apparently people in Arizona like eating out a little bit more than the rest of the United States. And within the state, Mesa, Maricopa, and Phoenix present a higher opportunity. But you're not just getting this information at a political geography, you're also able to dive into neighborhood information. You can see here on the right-hand side, a heat map showing you information about where businesses, in this case, restaurants, are making more or less money. So you can see areas around Mesa and Gilbert and Chandler are earning 3 to 3.4 million. And there's some other areas kind of here on the east side of Scottsdale, well, they're only 1 to 2.6. So we're showing you really site or industry-specific data for the characteristics that are really important to you. One thing I want to point out, if we have anyone who is vision impaired, or as I mentioned, you want to slice and dice the information, you can click here on the text version, and you'll get all this information that you're seeing as a heat map in a format that you can cut and paste and then do analysis on. We provide the information as both charts and tables, and these maps you can zoom in and out of. So one of the things that I think we can look at is what is the difference between restaurants? And as I mentioned, we're looking at all restaurants. So this is everything from fine dining to a taco truck. But as I mentioned, we can look at Italian restaurants. And we're going to find out some really interesting things. You can see where the concentrations of Italian restaurants are. And you can see it's making 2.69 in Mesa, but 3 million in the county. So it's just a little bit above in Mesa, significantly more in the county. Or we can go ahead and look at pizza restaurants. So I'm showing you this data at multiple levels for restaurants, for Italian restaurants, and now pizza. So I'm seeing some great questions in Q&A coming in. I want to let you know that we're monitoring them, and I'm going to answer them at the appropriate time. So now we're looking at pizza, and all of a sudden, remember, we were below average for Mesa, but if we had a $2 million pizzeria, we're now above average. We're at $1.8 million. So as I showed you, maybe you do have kind of grandma's recipes. And so you're thinking about, do I open a restaurant? Or do I open an Italian restaurant, pizza restaurant? You can actually see where the money is within a given industry, the restaurant industry. And so you can choose kind of higher levels or lower levels, depending on the level of depth that you want. And so let's go ahead and let's actually just go back to restaurants in general, because not all of us might like pizza as much as I do, the guy whose name is Mario. So here we go. Here's a heat map of all the restaurants, the revenue that's coming in. The other thing that you may want to consider are, what are the overall trends within a given industry? So let's say that our restaurant opened in 2012. We're looking at possibly expanding. We can go in and put the year that we started. It will show us that year here. And then it will show you the overall trends within that given industry. Why does this matter? Imagine if you put in movie and DVD rentals or fax machines, right? You would just see, instead of this chart moving up to the right, you'd see that chart cascading down, instead of moving up, moving down, because few and few people are working in those industries. So if you were thinking about starting in that business, or if you had an existing business in that industry, you may want to consider pivoting or changing your business plan. The thing about this data is that it's completely customizable. So what you're going to notice is we have it for the city, county, metro, state, and national level. Maybe you're not a national business. Maybe it's not important for you. You can click that button and turn that off. You can even say, hey, I'm just working in the Phoenix metro area, so we can get rid of state. And now we're showing you that in 2022, believe it or not, 1,222 new restaurants started in the metro area, 1,163 in the county, and 121 in the city of Mesa. If we change this to the pizza restaurants or Italian, we'd see the listing accordingly. And you saw that you can just go up there and change it very easily. So this is showing you the trends. If we were in coffee shops, you might think that there's a Starbucks at every corner and it wouldn't matter. But in fact, there's still growth in the coffee industry. So you know that you're in a vibrant, growing industry, and that it's probably a safer choice to be able to start your business there. The other thing that you may want to consider, what are overall salaries within an industry? Now, this is a blended salary. So when we're looking at, say, restaurants, we also know that you have restaurant managers, chefs, short order cooks or line cooks, hostesses, waiters, and waitresses. But this is just a blended value. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 30,000. And this is really interesting. So we're right on target for our industry, $30,000 across all of the different positions in that industry is about fair. So this is telling us a lot kind of about our business in terms of, and we can see also, as I mentioned before, areas of where you're expecting to pay more. So it'd be 30 to 32 in these areas and only 18 to 24 in different counties. And we could also look at the number of employees. Now, I don't know what the average size of a restaurant is. And if I was an entrepreneur, I really wouldn't expect to. But let's go ahead. I am not in any way superstitious. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 13. And what we're going to find out is that, wow, this is really interesting. The average restaurant, and this is all restaurants, is 17 people in Mesa, Maricopa, Phoenix, Arizona, 18 in the United States. So even though your restaurants are making more money, you're doing it with less people than the traditional restaurant in the United States. So you have slightly bigger restaurants. In the same way that we looked at the other categories, we can see where restaurants are larger. So 32 to 34 here in the east part of Scottsdale. If you remember, that was also an area where there was kind of lower revenue. So they actually have more employees and lower revenue in that area, which is interesting. And that's the power of the tool. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to the competition section. But the competition section, you can look at the individual businesses, not the aggregate statistics, but the individual businesses that are in those areas. So you might want to visit them to see what they're doing poorly, or maybe what they're doing well. So there are ideas you can copy. There are things that they do that maybe you want to avoid. And this is where the information really becomes super valuable, because we've been putting information into the tool so far, and it's been giving us feedback. It's been telling us where we're successful, where there's room for improvement. And now we can start deriving even more information. Is our SizeUp Super Crunches millions of data points to provide you information about how your community sizes up. This is employees per capita within that zip code. Or we can look at cost effectiveness. So if you remember, we were looking at this, we were almost a third less in revenue than a traditional restaurant in Mesa. But through the lens of objective data, we can see that we're paying our employees a very fair wage, but we're doing more with less. We have 13 employees instead of 17. So even though our annual revenue is actually lower than the average restaurant, our cost effectiveness is 12% above average. We're doing really well for the size of staff that we have and perhaps the type of restaurant. And you can see areas where they're being more or less cost effective. But you're looking at 5.13. So that's revenue per employee divided by the worker salary for your business. So what you thought may have been a weakness in revenue actually shows that you're really strong operationally. We can also look at revenue per capita. And so this is revenue per capita by zip code, right? So it's showing you the amount that the people in these areas are spending on this service. And then you can contrast that versus the revenue by those industries in those areas. So this can help you identify areas that are underserved, or perhaps areas where there's really big concentrations of a specific type of spending or industry. And it kind of varies from industry to industry. Is an example of that. I have two daughters, 6 and 11, and going to the dentist is a thing that you got to do with your kids. And a lot of you notice that dentists tend to like locate next to each other because the dentist wants to be next to the orthodontist and the periodontist and all those. So sometimes there's concentrations of businesses. Other times, those areas represent opportunities, areas that are underserved, where there's an opportunity for you to introduce your product. We can also look at local retention rates. So this information can oftentimes be very obscure for small businesses. Your big businesses, they have, back office HR employees, or they have analysts who are telling them this information. So imagine if you did have that 13-person restaurant and you were losing one person per year, and you're a little bit frustrated. That represents a significant portion of your workforce that you have to recruit, retrain, and it's a real burden. But objectively, through the lens of data, with a 20% turnover rate in the restaurant industry in 13 people, you should be losing about 2.5 people. So something that you were concerned about, and not that you should be concerned about losing staff, but objectively, you actually should be losing more than you are. So this means that there's something in your culture, your compensation, the product, the service, the environment that you've created that's allowing you to keep more than statistically your fair share of employees. The other thing that we can do is we can look at healthcare costs, because for small businesses, it's highly variable. You're not negotiating, so you can look at what your costs may be, and you look at workers' compensation. And so these are all ways to consider what your overall performance is and what you might want to do in terms of like partnering with other businesses or looking at other resources where you can, aggregate your services with different providers. And then you notice that there's this little summary view right here at the bottom, and it will actually bring you into an entire dashboard of your business. This is especially useful. Imagine if you are an entrepreneur and you're running scenarios. So you saw that you were making $2 million. That puts you in the 43rd percentile of restaurants. Maybe you think this is your first year. In your next year, you're going to add perhaps how about another $500,000 in revenue. Now, you may not be able to do that by keeping your employee count the same. Maybe you have to add one more person because you're expanding your hours. That's part of what's happening in terms of increasing your revenue. And now you can run through these different scenarios. And I'm going to export that PDF just in a second to show you. And you can see what the changes on your cost effectiveness. So before you were 12% above average in terms of cost effectiveness. Now by adding that other employee and expanding your hours, you're looking at 30% above average in your cost effectiveness. So this is really valuable information to help you understand objectively how you're performing in either businesses in your existing industry using your real data, or to consider how your hypothetical business plan would perform against your industry competitors. And then to understand whether you should pivot. Maybe you should sell chicken parm and fettuccine Alfredo not just pepperoni and mushroom slices, or whatever else you want to consider doing that. As I mentioned, you can take all of this information and you can export it into a business report. So all the information that you just saw is now available for you to cut and paste into Excel or anything else. So I hope that that is helpful and is a quick overview on what the first tool, the My Business or benchmarking tool, should be. So that was an overview of all the KPIs. I want to point out a few other things here. We've designed this to be as simple to use as possible. So some of you may have questions about how this is working. So right now we're showing you kind of local information on revenue. If you are a larger business, let's say that you are in, I don't know what, a machine shop. And so you're actually sending your parts and tools elsewhere. We can actually look at it here. We're looking at the zip code level. If I zoom out further, we're going to see that information at the zip code level. And let's say you want to understand how you're performing at a national level. As you zoom out the map, you'll get benchmarks at that national level. So the tool is designed to interpret what it is that you're doing with the tool and then provide that information to you at the level that you're most interested at. We'll see that also with consumer expenditures and a couple of the other features that Armando's going to share with you. So remember, you can zoom out, you can zoom in, you can change your business, or you can change your location at any time. So if we went to Phoenix, we'd go ahead and go to Phoenix, and it would zoom us back into that area so we could analyze it as well. So this is the first of the 3 modules that we're going to cover. This is a deep dive to give you more information about that specific tool. The same thing can happen at revenue per capita. You can see this is revenue per capita for machine shops. If we zoom out, the same thing that's going to happen in per capita expenses too. So all of these elements are interactive so that we can feature your exact trade area, your exact marketing plan, or whatever is unique to your business. Unless I see any other mentions from the host or panelists, I think there's some questions that I need to answer. Armando, can you cue me up?
Yeah, absolutely, Mario. So I was monitoring the Q&A chat, and the majority of the questions that came in at the beginning were actually all suggestions for scenarios for us to cover within the next bootcamp session. So I've already recorded all of those, and then we'll go ahead and look at doing some of those particular scenarios. Now, there was one question though that did come in that we can either answer now or we can wait until the end, and that is the data. What sources does SizeUp use? Did you want to go over that now, or did you want to wait till the end?
That's a great question. And normally we save this one to the end, but I think because we're doing a deep dive, let's go ahead and answer it now. I think it'll provide context for what Armando's going to show you. And I'm going to cheat ahead just a little bit, but we're not going to ruin Armando's session here by spoiling it, right? Spoiler alert. I'm going to just go ahead and go to restaurants. We're going to talk about this. So you can see the information here. And you're seeing this information at the city, county, metro, state, national level. You notice we're also showing the information at the zip code level. So we have different levels of granularity and we have hundreds of different data sources. So all of the information that you're seeing here that's showing you revenue, this isn't just that zip code makes it. There are businesses there. There are people there earning those salaries. And you can see that information here on the competition tool. We're in Phoenix. If I went out to Mesa, because that was our original example, we'll switch. And so we're showing, and you notice you're seeing everything from, Rochester's Family Dining to the Green Tea Restaurant, Wiener Schnitzel, Subway. So we're in all restaurants right now. All of these data points are updated every 3 months. So what we call the firmographic data. You're also going to see consumer expenditures. And I'm literally just going to choose a random one. Entertainment, cable television. Probably not the most exciting map, but I was randomly choosing it. And so you can actually see the segments for consumer expenditures at a neighborhood level. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to back out into the PowerPoint presentation so we can talk a little bit more about this in preparation for Armando's session. So let me share this screen and see if Zoom is participating in allowing me to do that. Perfect. So this is how we think about data at SizeUp. There's kind of buckets of it. And we have hundreds of different data vendors. They're public, they're private. We think that you're really, when you're asking where our data is from, we think that you're talking about these three things: industry information, or what we call firmographic data, demographic data, and then geographic data. So the industry data comes from hundreds of different sources, both public, private, and then, as you know, like if it's a publicly traded company, they have to release their earnings reports every quarter. If you're an attorney or a CPA, you have to fulfill professional licenses. There's county courthouse filings. It comes from lots of different places. The important thing to know is it's updated every 3 months. That's not just the individual businesses, it's also the calculations associated with those businesses. The demographic information that you're going to see, so consumer expenditures, the number of people within those zip codes, if you're exporting those, the wage, all of that information, it comes either 6 months or annually, depending on the source. So the consumer expenditure data, which comes from, let's be honest, right? Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, Visa, MasterCard, they know more about how we spend our money than we do. All of those sources that are contributing to that are updated every 6 months. The labor statistics data, so workers' comp, healthcare, wage, that's updated annually. So sometimes you get mashups. So we're not going to go to advertising yet, but we have a way of analyzing underserved areas. That's based on consumer expenditures that are updated every 6 months, along with firmographic data that's updated every 2 months. So depending on the industry that you're in, the location that you're in, you're getting 3, 6, or annual data updates. It's a really complex issue. We have white papers on it. So if you're really interested in reading, I don't know what, 117-page documents on nth levels of standard deviation statistical analysis, we're happy for you to read it, and then you can break down the information yourself. But I hope that answers the question. So what you should see is when Armando's showing the competition tool, you're going to be seeing information that is updated every 3 months. That data sometimes is 3 to 6 months in arrears, but we update it every 3 months. And you're like, well, why can't you do what Google Maps does? Because we're not just updating a push pin with open hours. We have to update all of the data related to that business, the number of employees, the revenue, so on and so forth. So we do update the information every 3 months. So were there any other questions, Armando, or should I turn this over to you for the competition module?
Nope, you were able to answer all the questions that are in the chat currently.
All right, fantastic. So I will be acting as your air traffic controller. Please keep those chat or Q&A coming, and I will queue up Armando when he's done with this session, and we'll go into the general Q&A. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk later.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Mario. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the same browser, sorry, to the same website. And while we're here, I do want to point out something very important, because right now of course, there is a lack of access to data for everyone. It is not the case for Spanish speakers. So if you have access to SizeUp, you also have access to SizeUp in English and in Spanish. All you have to do is simply click here, and it is translated in context. So how it's understood in English is exactly how it's understood in Spanish. It's not a Google Translate. We went out and got a translator for this. So you have the ability to look at this in Spanish as well. So I'm happy here that we get to do a deep dive, because I really get to go into the story here. So let's go ahead and jump into an industry that I kind of have a personal connection with. So let's go ahead and go with beauty salons. I have a cousin who owns her own beauty salon now. She was in the industry forever just as a salonist, and now she saved up enough money and she opened up her own business. Now, she only moved from one side of the city to the other when she opened up her business. However, in Arizona, let's go to maybe a place that, let's say hypothetically, she wanted to go to a very brand new place away from everything, but still kind of has a couple of things to do. So here, I'm going to go with Flagstaff, one of the few places in Arizona that I haven't been just yet. And then, of course, you see over here, the 3 modules that we talked about. I'm going to go in the competition module over here, which is essentially your ecosystem. You're going to be able to see who your competitors are, prospect potential new customers, and then discover potential new suppliers. One of the other things that I do want to point out, little tidbit here, no matter which module that you have active, so we click here, this I button will appear. If we have the My Business module active, we go back to the competition module and we have this I button active. We click on this and then a 1 minute video or 1 minute or less video will pop up that will explain exactly how to use this module and what it does, just in case you ever get lost or forget how to use these. So scrolling down over here, we've typed in beauty salons, and now the map right here has populated with the top 10 results based on the center geography here. Now you can see that you are competing with a combination of mom and pop shops and big box stores. And just like Google over here, you have different searches that have popped, or different pages. So we can click on those and we can get additional ones that pop up. And let's see now, if we click on some, even the ones that are not numbered, you can still click on and information will pop up on those particular ones. You can click on the map here, get more information on an individual business that you're competing against, or you can click over here on the searches, or sorry, the results, and get more information there. And it'll bring up an info card on the business. And there you can go directly if they have social media, if they have website or an online presence, we can go ahead and click on those and we can start to explore the offerings of that place, their prices, their services, how to get in contact with them, kind of do a little bit of research on what your competition is currently doing. And then of course, we can do that. We can continue to do that throughout and explore even more. And then of course, we can explore some of their social medias as well. Now that we've looked at some of the competition here, we can, if we think we're competing against more than just beauty salons in that case, no worries, we can actually add more industries by clicking on this tab right here. So here, beauty salons and barber shops are fairly close. So let's go ahead and click on that. And then it went from 43 results to 47. So now we are seeing not just beauty salons, but also barber shops as well. So then we can scope out even more of the competition. Now that we've scoped out the competition, we can go over here and prospect potential new customers. Now, my cousin is, she has 3 kids, and a lot of her, oops, where did my thing go? Oh, sorry about that. And a lot of her business cycle kind of revolves around the school cycle. So looking at some of the customers, like right now, I believe is homecoming. So we're gonna go ahead and look at something like, oops, let me adjust my screen real quick. Of course, Zoom has too many windows open up for me. I've got it all together now. Let's go ahead and look at something like public. Let's go high schools, right? Let's see, schools, public school district. There we go. Senior high school. Especially right now, we want to target that homecoming season. So we click on that. We see they start to populate. And now we can see who our potential customers are. Now it looks like some of the high schools are a little bit farther away. So let's go ahead and add some more industries to see if we can get more closer potential customers. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at something like sports. Sports and recreation. There we go. Memberships, sports recreations club. Everybody that typically likes to do that either gets a buzz cut. We can offer those quick buzz cuts, typically for some of those. And then let's also think about customers maybe that are in front of, do public speaking and need to be more presentable. So let's go ahead and think something like lawyers. Great. And now we have created, I'm on page 2. We have created a large amount of different search results that we can start to prospect on. And then of course, just like you saw before in the previous example, you can click on this PDF and you can get a report of all of the inputs that we just entered there. Now, we haven't gone through the entirety of the tool, which is why there's only 2 pages right now, and we'll get 3 pages right now when we go to the suppliers. But for now, one other thing that I want to point out is there's a button here called consumer spending. Now, we've seen where our potential customers are that we've deemed who are potential customers. Now, if we click on this, we can search through different categories and see where households are already spending their money. Now, if this is overwhelming and there's a lot to look through, no worries. You can click this search here and you can start to type something in and you can see the consumer expenditures pop up based on your search. So based on what we're looking at, hair care right now, we can click on that and then the map will populate with a heat map here showing the consumer expenditures by zip code. And here you can see exactly how much is being spent. We zoom in, we can see it there, and then we can zoom out and even look around even further. Now I'm going to go ahead and declutter this map so we can look at the final tab over here, which is the suppliers tab. Everybody has to get their supplies from somewhere, right? So we're going to go ahead and look. We are a beauty salon, but also we do need things like office supplies. So we're going to look at that as well. So stationery, if I can spell. So we got stationery and office supplies wholesale. If we buy it wholesale, maybe we get a better deal. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And then just like we saw before, we can continue to add on industries because of course we are a beauty salon. So we do want beauty equipment. So let's go ahead and start to type in beauty equipment. So we see beauty salons equipment and supplies wholesale. Awesome. And now, just like before, we see the results populate and we can click on them on the map itself, or we can click on them over here as well. And then explore, just like our competitors, we can see our potential new suppliers who are closer, who have different services or offerings, and the different prices at which they can supply it to. Now, I know we originally in our presentation said that we were going to do 2 examples, but we are coming close to that time where we are reserving for Q&A. So I'm just going to give a quick recap on this module here. This is the competition module that we just went over, looking at your ecosystem in 3 very important but very different tabs. The competitors tab, where you're able to see who you're competing with. You know, is it mom and pop shops? Is it big box stores? Are there clusters of them? And then also we can add additional industry competitors as well. If we are a coffee shop, we can also add things like bakeries and cafes so that we're not limited to just competing with one particular industry, especially if we do multiple different offerings or we're trying to expand our selection, things like that. Now, the second tab in your competition tool was the customers tab, being able to prospect potential new customers. And it started off blank because who knows who your customers are and who you're targeting better than you, the business. So whoever you're trying to target, you can simply type that industry in, and then it will populate with the results there. And then last but not least, we went over the suppliers tab, being able to prospect potential new suppliers, being able to see the supply chain, who's closer in geography, what services are offered, and at what price points. All 3 of those collectively add to your business's ecosystem. All right. Now we are within 9 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop there and open it up to the Q&A. Actually, Mario, do you want to queue that up?
Sure. So most of the questions that have come have basically been, as you mentioned, future examples for the next session. We had a question about, and this will be a little bit forward-looking, Armando. They have a person whose business isn't showing up yet. And so you may want to answer that, or if you want, I'm happy to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things that we can do. Just like we were looking at different industries. For now, it may be coming in an adjacent industry. So like if you are, if you type in a, well, like I was saying before, you type in a coffee shop, maybe instead look at or try and add on coffee roasters as well. And then if it's continuously not popping up, we are coming out with a fix in the next, what's the timeline, Mario?
Sure. So let me just kind of like echo what you're saying. So one of the things we should mention here, and this is a deep dive. So thanks to Robert investing the time for us to be able to cover this, we're going to answer your question in a way that we normally wouldn't. So one, businesses can appear in up to 6 different industries, right? So your gas station is also a convenience store. Or goodness knows, I've visited some rural places where it's also a jewelry store and perhaps a clothing store, as I was traveling from San Diego over to New Mexico one time. I got my wife a beautiful beautiful piece of jewelry over in Yuma. So it may be that you're listed as like a clothing store as opposed to just lingerie, or it might be a women's boutique. So you should look for adjacent industries. And one of the beauties of our system, and Armando was showing you that, is if you go to the industry section like he's showing right now, you can add in like barbershop. So Armando, if you click on industries right now, oh, not there, but the actual, there we go. So you can see that if you're, let's say you're a full service salon, so you're dealing with kids, men, women, maybe you have like waxing services and everything, you could add in barbershop, so you could add in nail salons, so you can add in or subtract as many industries as you're interested in. As I mentioned, we have hundreds of different data sources, and so it was really challenging for us. We actually look for what we call signals. You might be in one database, but not in another, so we try to triangulate. For the first time in 7 years, we're actually going to introduce the option to update or list your business on our service. We want to be very clear that you are not the product. We're not trying to sell your information or anything like that. But we will work with all of our major national data partners. These are the same people who sell information at a base level to Google Maps, Yelp, Apple Maps, things of that nature. And so we'll keep Kelly, we'll keep Robert updated on that. When that feature comes available, you'll be able to update your information, appear on the tool, and then with your permission, we'll send that out to our national data partners. They each have their own way of validating that data. Some people, they want to talk to an actual live physical human being. Other people, they need to see utility bills or articles of incorporation. So it just varies because there's such a broad different level of firmographic data vendors. But what we're hoping is that it will get you on our system sooner, and then it will also get you listed on those other systems, Google Maps, Yelp, Apple Maps. There's so many different services that can benefit. So that's why it's really important that please do subscribe to the updates, the newsletters from Robert and Kelly's team, because we keep them updated so they can keep you updated. Hopefully that answers the question. And who knows, maybe by the next time that we're presenting, we'll have that feature up and be able to show it to you. Right. So that was the only other question that I saw. There was another question. If someone is putting together like a document for a loan application or investor package, how should they refer to the tool? So we are SizeUp, but the tool that you're using is SizeUp Arizona. So if you're going to reference the data source or the data set that you're drawing from for your loan application or whatever, you should just reference it as SizeUp Arizona and provide a link to the tool, because if someone needs to validate that data or take a look at it themselves, or maybe they're just so interested in how you prepared it because they have their own entrepreneurial inclination, then you can supply that to them that way. And with that, I didn't see any other open questions at this time. So I think we should turn this back over to Robert and Kelly.
Well, apologies, Mario. Before you do that, one other thing that I did want to show is, so while we did consumer expenditures here, we did hair care, and it was at the zip code level. I did want to change up the location really quick. to maybe a slightly larger town, Tucson, Arizona. So if we go to Tucson and we put this in here, right now we currently have zip code. Oh, apologies. I'm having a little bit of a brain fart here. Never mind.
You want to keep zooming out, right, Armando?
Yes, I am going the opposite direction. I wanted to show you that you can do that not just at zip code, but you can also zoom out further, just like you're able to do in the My Business module over here. And then you'll be able to get it by the county as well if you want to see that at a higher bird's eye view as well. And if you're in a town closer to the border and you want to see it by state so that you can compare, you can also zoom out and see that by state.
You may have to zoom out quite a bit because you have all of those data points on too.
Yes.
Those are eventually going to get super crunched as well. You're just dealing with millions of businesses. So you probably have to re-zoom back in, or you're just going to think that the United States has some version of chicken pox and whatever Grinch pox are that are green. But if you needed to supply, and again, and I apologize, I think Robert needs to wrap up. But the point is, if let's say you're an Arizona business, and let's say that you needed a product, a Minnesota pine tree specific to your working thing, you can actually zoom into Minnesota and then see lumber mills in Minnesota where you can get just that pine tree. The analysis always has to start within the state of Arizona, but it can extend to whatever your trade area is, even if that is a national company. So Kelly and her team have invested in a tool that is going to support you no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're doing it. And so if there's more Q&A, save on those questions for next time. And we'll turn this back over to Robert and Kelly. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Mario and Armando. We appreciate you being with us. And Kelly, we appreciate you being with us too. And appreciate APS providing this service for Arizona businesses. Just a reminder that Armando and Mario, we will be back with us next week for some more follow-up and diving deeper into this program and how you can use it for your business. So join us again next Tuesday morning for that next session. And bring your questions. If you're playing with it throughout the week, write down those questions you might have, and so we can ask those to our experts here. But again, we want to thank you guys for being with us. Thank all of our attendees for participating today. And we will go ahead and wrap up and give everybody back about 15 seconds to their day. And so thank you again, Kelly, Mario, and Armando, and we will see you soon. Have a great week.
Yeah, everyone.